The Dunwoody Preservation Trust is a nonprofit organization composed of volunteers seeking to identify and save Dunwoody's natural resources and historic properties and document its history for future generations. This is where Dunwoody was born, along the Chattahoochee River, among green fields and forest. For hundreds of years, Cherokee Indians of the Creek Nation occupied these shores. They hunted, farmed, fished, and later traded peacefully with the few white settlers in the area, many of whom were passing through in search of gold. Since the Cherokee were spread throughout the southeastern United States, they built a lengthy trail from present-day Augusta through Dunwoody and into northern Georgia. Although rocky and narrow, the Hightower Trail, as it was called, served a valuable purpose in uniting tribes and promoting trade. Today, the memory of the trail still exists and was used to define certain county lines and streets. But over time, as more and more settlers moved into the area, tensions grew and peaceful coexistence deteriorated. Beginning in 1821, the Cherokees were forced to leave the area. The land was surveyed and divided into large plots of about 200 acres and given to qualified settlers. Ken Anderson describes how his ancestors obtained one of the original land deeds in the area.
You had to enter your name in or put your name on a piece of paper, and they dropped it in a hat or a box or something, and then they would have a lottery drawing.
The lucky winner paid a grant fee of $19 to the state, approximately 10 cents per acre.
It's surprising, this thing laid in the barn in a trunk, and I just started going through them trying to find what was in there. As a curious kid, and my grandmother actually pointed this out to me, and she let me take it home, and I've had it ever since.
Early families included the Redfields, Carpenters, Mannings, and the Spruills, just to name a few. Roughly 200 plots were given out, and the seeds of the community were planted. The community grew under the name Shallow Ford, the name the Indians called the span of water where the Roswell Bridge now stands. Meet Major Charles Dunwoody, youngest son of John Dunwoody of nearby Roswell. The major returned home after the Civil War, only to discover a ravaged land, barren fields, and burnt homes. With a damaged hip sustained in combat, but with steely determination, he bought a horse and 2 mules and planted much-needed crops for the community. But he did not stop there. Major Dunwoody rebuilt the bridge over the Shallow Ford, which had been destroyed during the war. He established the first post office as well. In 1880, he led the construction of a 10-mile narrow-gauge railroad that ran from Roswell to Chambly. The railroad would serve the area for 41 years until 1921, all that time having only one conductor, a man by the name of Ike Roberts. Later, townspeople named Roberts Drive after old Ike. And because of a spelling error in the post office charter, an extra O was added, and the town was renamed Dunwoody after their tireless and energetic leader, the Major. The railroad energized the community. Making 2 runs a day from Roswell to Chambly, the train, a 460 known as Old Buck, carried things like lumber, seed, farm products, and goods from catalog giants Sears and Roebuck and Montgomery Ward. In 1903, the original tracks were replaced with standard gauge tracks. And of course, the railroad brought people to and from the area. Soon, homes and stores sprung up around the Dunwoody train depot. Joe Barry Cheek built a sawmill and cotton gin. P.L. Moss's general store expanded, selling everything from penny candy and hoop cheese to men's clothing and ladies' corsets. Activity bustled along present-day Chambly, Dunwoody, and Mount Vernon roads, and Dunwoody was beginning to make a name for itself. With more and more families moving in, many from nearby Sandy Springs, the community's first school, a 1-room cabin, was built on what is now Chambly-Dunwoody Road. Families paid tuition and brought wood for the school's little stove. The original schoolhouse was replaced by a 4-room building in 1920, and in the mid-1930s, a brick school was built. A small number of teachers were responsible for many grades. Mrs. Nettie Austin taught 1st through 3rd. Kathleen Myers, granddaughter of Stephen Sproul, recalls her favorite teacher.
She was very understanding and passionate, and she made you want to learn. How she could manage 3 grades in 1 room and everybody do as well as they did is a miracle.
Ms. Elizabeth Davis was principal for 25 years.
The best thing was to teach each child to feel important, to feel that he was a necessary part of the program, and then to have teachers who felt the same way that I did. And the spirit of the school, to me, of course, is the most important thing.
Being in a rural area meant books were scarce. Beginning in 1937, the bookmobile, a product of the county library system, made its way to the school every week.
The bookmobile would bring books and we could check them out, and that was very exciting the day the bookmobile came.
Children were responsible for more than just their schoolwork.
A lot of the school kids that were in Dunwoody at that time were children of farmers. And in the fall of the year, after school would start, a lot of times they'd have to drop out for 2 or 3 weeks while they gathered their crops.
What was it like growing up in Dunwoody?
We had to either walk or ride a bicycle, or my brother and I had a horse and buggy which we drove to school for a short period of time. And even on Ashford Dunwoody, we could go from our home to school and perhaps not see a car.
When we were kids, myself and my sisters, we'd skate, up and down the road on steel wheel skates, ride bicycles, or you could do most anything in the road you wanted to and not have to move out of the way of the cars.
I can remember coming to my grandfather's home on Sunday afternoon, and everybody would sit on the porch, and sometimes we would have homemade ice cream, which was a real treat.
On the corner of Mount Vernon and Chambly Dunwoody, sharing a building with the post office, was Nash's store.
Well, there was 2 fascinating things about Nash's store, and one of them was the drink box, and the other one was the candy counter.
Most of the children, when they walked from school, would get to go by the store to go home. And of course, he had all sorts of lollipops and candy, and back then there would be cigarettes and snuff.
He had a big cooler in there that circulated refrigerated water around the drinks. And it was always a thrill to pull that wet bottle out of the drink box, and it was so cold and tasted so good in those days.
Each of Dunwoody's churches has a story to tell. Take Winter's Chapel Methodist Church, for example. Back in 1870, Jeremiah Winters got some men together and made an announcement.
Boys, we can go into the woods, cut some logs, have them sawed, and haul us up a church.
And so they did, in one day. And what about Ebenezer Primitive Baptist, Dunwoody's first church? Elder Cagle has been with the church for over 50 years.
I came here and filled my first appointment at Ebenezer, and on Sunday night, the second Sunday in October 1948.
They didn't have an organ, not then and not today. The Primitive Baptists have always relied on the human voice, known as the sacred harp.
So, la, fa, so, fa, la, so, la, fa, la, so, fa. So I started singing sacred harp when I was just 5, 6 years old. And the sacred harp is just 4 notes, but they have 7 sounds. And there's a lot of minor music in the sacred harp, which is very special to me. It has a special tune. Minor music has the same ring to it as the wind blowing around the corner of the house, or wind through a tree, or the sound of a stream running over rocks. That holy manna may be showered all around. I don't know if I have a perfect pitch, but I get pretty close.
Over the years, many denominations have taken root in the area. As Dunwoody expanded, so did the need to accommodate people of many faiths. The churches help keep our diverse community connected. Some events are interdenominational, such as the Dunwoody Community Choir Concert and the Service of Remembrance of September 11, 2001. As the years passed, Dunwoody grew from a railroad junction into a town, and so did the need for modern conveniences. In 1930, the Georgia Power Company brought electricity to Dunwoody, and in 1942, the area's first water facility was built. Through the 1950s and 60s, Dunwoody remained a relatively quiet neighborhood community. Its rural setting attracted folks from Atlanta seeking vacations from the city. But in 1969, the sleepy community was awakened by the construction of Interstate 285, which had to be rerouted to avoid an historical cemetery. The face of Dunwoody would forever be changed. Perimeter Mall opened in 1971, and some would say in the middle of nowhere. From farmers' fields rose a retail and corporate phenomenon known as Perimeter Center.
I guess the growth just came on gradually. We watched it grow and didn't realize it was growing as much as it was.
Among the green trees, houses and neighborhoods grew. Dunwoody Village Shopping Center was built in 1973. Ashford-Dunwoody Road was expanded to 4 lanes in 1980, which signaled the end of the separation of the growing business area from the residential communities. Fearing overdevelopment, citizens rallied to protect their cherished community. The Dunwoody Garden Club raised $60,000 and planted trees along the median of Ashford-Dunwoody. But this growth had been foreseen as far back as 1969, when the Dunwoody Homeowners Association was formed. Since its inception, the DHA has worked to control development and encourage responsible growth. Its president, Ken Wright.
For the past 3 decades, every single new development, every single sign was a negotiation or a battle. There were no laws protecting Dunwoody. So again, what the citizens see in Dunwoody was all blood, sweat, and tears from the DHA. It was going to the developers or going to the businesses and setting the agenda and setting what our rules were and what the homeowners' rules were. And if those rules weren't followed, then that business was not going to be successful. This community would not support them. That's how Dunwoody created itself.
Former DHA President Herb Sprague was instrumental in protecting Dunwoody's colonial architectural look.
If there's something that bothers you, you think is wrong, don't wait for someone else to correct it. Take it on yourself. You'll either be proven right or you'll be proven wrong. But at least you have the satisfaction of, hey, I fought and I lost for good cause, or I lost for non-good cause, I won for good cause.
Another major force in shaping today's Dunwoody is the Dunwoody Women's Club. Founded in 1971, the club seeks to expand Dunwoody's cultural and educational treasures. The club founded the Stage Door Players Theater and was instrumental in establishing the Dunwoody Nature Center. In 1976, the Women's Club sponsored Dunwoody's inaugural 4th of July parade to celebrate America's bicentennial. The parade is now an annual event, sponsored by the Dunwoody Homeowners Association and the Dunwoody Crier. One day in 1994, without notice, two of Dunwoody's historic railroad section houses were bulldozed to the ground.
We had no warning at all, and overnight they were gone. And this one thing woke us up. So we formed the Dunwoody Preservation Trust, which was a group of citizens who thought it was well worth saving our historic properties.
The mission of the trust includes the preservation of historic homes, cemeteries, and properties, as well as preserving green space and recording community history. Joyce Amacher and Lynn Bird of the Dunwoody Preservation Trust were determined to prevent another landmark from falling victim to development, the Cheek Spruill Farmhouse. Built in 1906 by Jobury Cheek and located in the heart of Dunwoody at the corner of Chambly Dunwoody and Mount Vernon, the house lay in a state of disrepair after the passing of Mrs. Florence Spruill in 1994.
A group of leaders and people that really care about Dunwoody came over, and we talked about it, and everybody really felt like we should let the community know that we were trying to save the property.
And so, the Save the Heart of Dunwoody campaign was launched in 1995. Joyce and Lynn quickly discovered that people were willing to donate to the cause.
We thought, if we can't save this house, we can't do anything that a group like the Preservation Trust would like to do. And you wouldn't believe how Dunwoody came together. Everybody wanted to save this house.
One of the things that really touches my heart, I get goosebumps now, the children were so involved. The school children made little rings, and they strung them up in the hall, and I think that they paid 25 cents or 50 cents for a ring, and collectively they gave us $3,800, and they brought it all up, you know, in change and everything, and it was just a very touching experience.
At the conclusion of the 4th of July parade in 1998, the farmhouse was gifted to the Preservation Trust by Guardian Savings, and with the donations already received, restoration could finally begin. Months of hard work followed, which included a badly needed reinforcement of the second floor, addition of sprinklers and a fire escape, and the straightening of the chimney brick by brick by volunteer contractor Bill Amacher. In the end, the efforts paid off with the 1999 dedication of the new Dunwoody Town Hall.
If you look at what's happened in this community, and to think that we saved this corner, you got to get excited.
The house is now listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and its charming little tea shop is definitely worth a visit. What Dunwoody does best, perhaps, is accomplished by its volunteers and service organizations. County Commissioner Bill Williams and his wife Jean were instrumental in establishing Dunwoody's first public library in 1981. Jean Williams, succeeding her husband as commissioner, subsequently led the effort to save the Dunwoody Elementary School and transform it into the North DeKalb Cultural Center and current library in 1989. At the Cultural Center, Stage Door Players Theater has kept performing arts in the spotlight for more than 30 years. And the Sproul Center for the Arts offers more arts and crafts classes than any center in the state. And who can forget the summer of 1996? Billy Payne's dream of bringing the Olympic Games to Atlanta was spectacularly fulfilled as Payne, a resident of Dunwoody, chaired the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games. The world watched as the torch passed through Dunwoody on its way to Olympic Stadium in Atlanta. It truly was a momentous event for the community.
I started hearing this sound like, and I had never heard that before in my life. And it was deafening, and it was amazing how loud it was. And I thought, what in the world is that?
Having reported many storms as a television reporter, Dale Cardwell was convinced the worst was over and returned to sleep.
And then it was about 3 o'clock in the morning that I heard boom, 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 boom on my front door. And it was the DeKalb County Fire Department. And they said, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I am. Why?" He said, "Well, there's been a tornado in Dunwoody." And I said, "Well, I didn't realize it was a tornado, but yeah, I saw something." He said, "Have you not seen your house?" And I said, "No, what do you mean?" He said, "You might want to come out here and take a look at your house."
One man lost his life, thousands of trees were destroyed, and the lives of many families were forever changed.
I thank God that I lived. I think I could have easily been killed. But once you survive the tornado, you have to live.
Dunwoody's true character became ever more tangible during those weeks. It was the overwhelming efforts of neighbors, churches, and clubs that assisted those in need. One involved resident was Kathy Florence.
Everybody wanted to help, and I found after going to some of the meetings in the community and learning from DeKalb County and FEMA and GEMA, some of the opportunities available to people for help, it just was a natural for me to put together a newsletter to extend that information to the rest of the community, because we didn't have power, we didn't have television, we didn't have mail service for several weeks, and we didn't have newspaper, of course.
Her newsletter was distributed by a network of volunteers as often as twice a week. Her recovery update became a weekly column in the Dunwoody Crier. Another silver lining appeared when the Dunwoody Preservation Trust, the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, and the Nature Center conceived and implemented the project to replant the Dunwoody forest. The task seemed enormous, raising funds and finding volunteers to replace thousands of trees. Roy Ashley developed the master plan as his gift to the community, and the funds were raised. On the first anniversary of the tornado, a 5K run was held, followed by a neighborhood home tour that showcased the strides residents had made in their recovery. The following year, the event expanded to include outdoor activities and concerts. Lemonade Days was born.
So we decided to call it Lemonade Days. The idea being, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Volunteers raised $250,000 to plant 25,000 trees over a 3-year period. Today, those new trees are flourishing. And Lemonade Days? It's now an annual event, offering a few days of fun in the sun. In 1997, DeKalb County purchased the 102 acres at Brook Run, which previously was home to a state facility. The Preservation Trust received a grant from the county to fund a master plan for the long-range development of the park. Ray Strakalski is a Dunwoody resident and a principal of the firm responsible for creating the master plan.
When we did this initial site analysis, which really looked at what the land was giving us in terms of topography and vegetation, it doesn't really lend itself well to an active recreation area, but really lends itself much more to a nature preserve of sorts.
Over time, the plan calls for a children's adventure garden, an aviary, and an animal preserve known as Nature's Way.
Close proximity to 2 major schools, Peachtree Middle, Chestnut Elementary, really brought to us this whole notion of a learning village and a learning green space that was able to be incorporated. So our proposal really encapsulated three major themes, which was nature, art, and education. And we were able to weave those three themes into the entire master plan for all 102 acres.
Residents of Dunwoody have always cared enough to protect the beauty of the area.
My name is Sherman Dudley. I've lived in Dunwoody since '78.
During the expansion of DeKalb County's waterworks in 2001, Dudley was concerned with the area's appearance. A barbed wire fence ran along Peeler Road, and the sparse vegetation had been neglected.
We want to provide some input as to how it looked. We want it to be an improvement to the community.
Neighbors joined together in organized committees, and with help from local politicians and the DHA, Dudley was able to persuade DeKalb County to fund a linear park designed by Roy Ashley.
Every small subdivision had a representative, and they all kept the pressure on. So that's how we got it done. And of course, working through the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, that was our leverage.
The Homeowners Association scored a major victory when it drafted the Dunwoody Village Overlay District, approved in 2002 by DeKalb County.
This overlay district law is going to take an effect where it has to be brick. It has to be mansard roofing. It's got to be colonial architecture. It has to be a wood sign. All of those things, again, that we see in Dunwoody, you think, well, gosh, that's normal. That was all fighting.
Having been here now 28 years, what I still see existing is pride. There's a lot of pride in Dunwoody. People who live in Dunwoody take a lot of pride in what we have, what we're trying to maintain. It's amazing if there's some issue comes up that impacts Dunwoody negatively, how the residents will come out and oppose that.
The one thing about Dunwoody that I certainly have noticed is any outsider that ever comes to our community, you'll notice even our commissioners come through and say, you have an absolutely gorgeous community.
And we're just hoping that other people will feel the need to save these things in Dunwoody and take over for the people who are here now and keep Dunwoody as wonderful as it is. The magic of Dunwoody, and these are Joyce's words and she is so right, the magic of Dunwoody is the people who live here.
There is so much to be done, and we can do it, all of us, with your help. What would Major Dunwoody say if he could see his community today? He might be pleasantly surprised and say, "My little Dunwoody, how you have grown."
well, we certainly owe a debt of gratitude to all the voters that showed up and the 80% that voted to form a city of Dunwoody. So I think tonight we lay that process formally to bed, and we begin anew with the city of Dunwoody. And I think as we move forward, the success of this community is not going to change.
O God of might and wisdom and justice, through whom laws are enacted and justice decreed, behold all of us assembled on this historic occasion. We ask you to give us the wisdom to guide us and to lead us. We ask you to give us the strength to hold to our purpose. We ask you to bless us, the elected officials, to help us make decisions which serve our mission and reflect our values. God bless Dunwoody, America's newest city, the state of Georgia, and the United States of America. Amen.
All right. Officially declare the city of Dunwoody is open for business. Yeah.
Kiss today goodbye. the sweetness and the sorrow. Wish me luck the same to you. But I can't regret what I did for love, what I did for love. Look, my eyes are dry. The gift was ours to borrow. It's as if we always knew. And I won't forget what I did for love, what I did for love. Gone, love is never gone. As we travel on, love's what we'll remember. Kiss today goodbye and point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for love. Love is never gone. As we travel on, love's what we'll remember. Kiss today goodbye and point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for